babies, one who's about to be 13, and another who is about to be 9 years old. Can you believe it? I know it. Who would have thought that I would be a mother of two boys that is about to be 13 and 9? All of our journeys to motherhood have been different. Some through marriage, some it was easy, for others it was challenging, some even through loss. The point is, all of our journeys have been stamped with some type of experience that made us into the mothers we are today. Today, my guest has, in my opinion, experienced a full gamut of motherhood. She has experienced it through loss, she has experienced it through marriage, and now she's experienced it through having her own. All of these experiences has helped to craft her journey as a mother. Siobhan E. Gabriel is a licensed clinical social worker who is the founder and owner of the Mosaic Refinery. She believes that your frustration is just your faith being tested, which speaks to her journey as a mother. Oh, so you look fabulous. Glow, all that comes with
Thanks.
pregnancy. I love it.
I try.
Girl. And you're holding it up well, child. I must say, you're doing good. You're doing good. So we're gonna get right into it.
All
Topic
right.
motherhood. And motherhood is, a topic that many speaks of, right? But I found that I want to talk to you about yours, not just motherhood, period, but your journey to motherhood. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's one that I have learned from, it's been inspired by, and I know that there are people that can relate to it or may not relate to it, but can be aware that not everyone's stories and journeys are the same. And so I just
Mm-hmm.
want you to share a little bit about the journey to motherhood. And let's start with, did you always want to be a mom?
ah, I let me say this. I did not think about it a lot until I was ready for marriage.
Okay.
I thought like, I love my mom, love the relationship that we've had, that we continue to have. But I don't think I was not pressed like a panini. I was like, when it's time, you know,
Right. Yeah.
it'll be my time. So I mean, there were things that I did not consider about the journey, but I figured that, in my about my mid 20s, I was like, I'm ready to have some kids, and I wanted four. Okay.
Oh.
That was before I understood the assignment. But I wanted four.
Yes.
So that's the rhetoric I was on.
Yeah. And so,
Am on.
right, right,
Living out.
right. And so, when you said, okay, I want to be a mom and I want to have four kids, did you like immediately like envision what this was going to look like? Like, did you have like a plan set? You know how they say, when we're young and we're girls, or when when we decide we want to do something, we think about this and we start immediately planning if we want to get married, if we want to have kids, we want to have a job, so on and so forth. Did like a visual come to you, or did you think you said, how am I going to get this done? How did that work when you first decided that's what you want?
Look, I did have that, semi cookie cutter. I'm gonna graduate from grad school, get a good job, meet a great guy. I'm gonna get married. We're gonna have these four children. I was still saying that. These four children, buy a home, white picket fence, a dog, all that jazz. I had my names for my kids, on a list that I wasn't consulting anybody about, but I had a list of names like,
Yeah.
I want to have two boys, two girls. Reason being, like, I come from a family of three children. And I was like, I don't want there to be any pitting. I need there to be some even keeled,
Mm-hmm.
at least, the numbers are even. Everybody has a partner, everybody has a friend.
Yeah.
So I did have this idea, like, of what things were going to look like when I became a mom. I was going to have my well disciplined, well rounded, full of personality. mini shivs and whomever else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had plans. I did. I
Yes.
did.
And that's so amazing because I'm pretty sure once you found your man, right? We're going to fast forward a little bit. You found your man. Is that how it played out? Did it go according to plan when you first found your man at the time?
So, yeah, okay. So I have to backtrack because I know we covered a lot of things in part one, but just to, you know, go
Yeah.
back and bring it forward. When I was married the first go round, there was already a child involved. He'd had a child. She was 5 at the time, little Erin. I still call her little Erin. She's 21 years old now.
Wow.
So I got married into a blended situation. Um, and that was not necessarily my plan, but that was just, those are the choices I made, and that's how that worked out. Um, and I wanted to have children with him until I realized the reality of the situation was like this might not have been the best idea given that there was so much breakdown in that particular relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I did undergo, I actually got pregnant a couple times and miscarried both times. I made my peace with that. That was not easy. I was upset about it for a long time. But when all was said and done, I said, okay, God closed that chapter. He closed those doors for good reason. We're not together anymore. And so round two, with my second chance to be remarried, I knew that I wanted children. I was much older. Um, and at that stage, because I was in my 30s already, I'm like, it is likely that I'll meet somebody who has children already. So I was open to that, just given life experience, age. This is what we got going on. And so when I met Luke, he already had two children from his previous marriage. And at the time, there was some transition going on between as far as like where they were living. So they were with him and then they were not. And he and I got married during the time that they were not with him. And we got started on working on a family immediately.
Mm-hmm.
While I was pregnant with my first son, they came to live with us 5 months into being married. So I kind of jumped headlong into instant momming before I even had my own first child.
So let's
So
talk
no,
about
it
that.
looked nothing.
Nothing like
Don't
what
you?
you
Yeah,
envisioned.
it
Yeah.
looked
Let's talk about that.
nothing. Uh-huh.
Let's talk about that because your vision obviously I would say didn't change in the sense that you wanted to be a mother. How it
Hmm.
happened is where we had to change and pivot. And so
Aha.
the fact that you became a stepmother first before being a mom to your own biological child, how was that? Because
Hmm.
for some women, if they have this idea that this is what I envisioned, this is what I planned, it doesn't go according to plan, there, even though we may pivot, there might be something, maybe a sadness or disappointment, or just like, oh, the blessing out of, or seeing the blessing out of that and keep it moving. How did that feel initially when you your first your first experience of being a mother was a stepmom?
Well, I'd had the experience of stepmama before, and it was a girl then, and there were two girls now. And I would say it was a mixed bag because there was some awkwardness because we had not had the opportunity. It wasn't like a traditional setup. It wasn't like we had the opportunity to gradually ease our way into becoming a family,
Right.
right? So, I mean, that's a conversation for another day. But for the people, what you need to know is that so it wound up happening overnight.
Mm,
And so with my background in mental health, I was like, let's just have some awkward, uncomfortable conversations now. let's just go on and dive into the deep end and talk about how awkward this is. Because the last time you saw me, I was Miss Siobhan at Miracle.
Ah.
And now we in the house
Mhm.
living together.
Mm.
But and so we jumped straight in, and even having that awkward, uncomfortable conversation, though, I think just sort of broke the ice. Like, okay, this is awkward, not just for you, but for everyone involved. And so, I got my little baby bump, and, here they are. They're like 13 and about to be 15 at the time,
Mm.
and happy to be reunited with their dad and cool with me. But it was just like everybody was just like on their best behavior and quiet and giggling and just kind of
Yeah.
taking it easy and like, okay, it's not bad.
Right.
Okay, we got our own space. But it was awkward. So it wasn't because I think what I had in mind, sorry, to get back to the point,
Mhm.
what I had in mind was that when we blended, not if, but when we blended, it was probably going to be a visitation sort of situation, is what I was thinking it was going to be. And there were hopes that it would have become a full time situation, but you know, legal things don't always go the way you want them to go. So at the very least, I was expecting a visitation situation that may increase over time. So
Mhm.
I thought that I would have had more time to prepare myself and ease into um, the stepmomming portion.
Right.
So I didn't quite see year one of being married under a year,
Mm.
jumping straight into instant momming. Like I did feel like, well, this is a lot. I mean, I was there for everything, but I still had not had the time mentally to process and prepare myself for it. So I had to do all of that at the same time.
Mm.
And it was overwhelming. What was good was that Luke and I had a lot of ongoing conversation, um, and we also sat down as the four of us as well and talked about what some of that was like over time as well. So we tried to like keep the communication wide open and going for everybody. But it was awkward, so we just had to take our time with the awkwardness. It happened over the summertime, so that was also kind of cool as well
Oh
because
wow.
you know you're not in school at the time. Like I'm working, I'm going back and forth. Luke working, he's going back and forth. So we had some dinner time in the evening, like going out for ice cream, that sort of thing. Opportunities to just kind of just be in each other's space
Yeah.
and sort of set things up.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a mixed bag. Definitely awkward, definitely uncomfortable, but it wasn't. There were no pins and needles.
Okay.
There was no tension. Bless God.
Yeah. That is God. Um, and I think that is inspiring to hear because many times, again, not everyone's story is that way. Not everyone, not saying that there's not going to be an awkwardness, but sometimes it's more than that, right? When you have to
Hmm.
blend families, the whole, you're not my mother, this is, but, all of that. If you're good enough to be in a position of taking a role of not necessarily their mother, but mother ish, if I can say that, because there is a position
Yeah.
for some.
We that
No?
they yes, they actually so having had an experience before as a stepmom, I did not want to coerce any of those kinds of conversations.
Right.
Right? So I had an experience before where my stepdaughter in my previous marriage wanted to call me mom when she was at the house and so on, just to help normalize things for her. And
Mm,
what wound up happening is, it did rub her mom the wrong way. And so we opted to do what made the mother more comfortable and stuck with Miss Siobhan throughout.
mm,
Years later, I felt like it wasn't the best decision. Like, she's 5, she's 6, she's 7 years old. It's about whatever's going to make that child feel secure, is
right.
how I felt it should have gone in retrospect.
Hmm.
So now these girls are much older. I didn't have them at 5 years old, but I did feel like whatever was going to make them feel more comfortable is what we were going to do.
Yeah. Yep.
So there was no conversation with them about what they would call me. We did not set that up like Luke and I talked privately. But one day, it was not even, it was maybe like a month into them living with us when they came to me on their own and said, we've been talking and we've made a decision. We've decided that we're going to call you mom. And I said, well, all right. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and roll with the roll with the decision. If
That's
that's what makes you
beautiful.
comfortable, that's fine. Yeah, so they took initiative on their own, and their rationale was their family that they had with their parents, and their dad's previous relationship was a blended one. They have two older sisters that precede them,
Okay.
and those older sisters were Luke's stepdaughters, and they had always called him dad. So for them, it was something that they'd already seen modeled
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So for them, it's like, well, if we're gonna be a family and you about to have another child, like you about to have a child, we're not gonna be up in here calling you Miss Siobhan while he's calling you mommy.
Yeah.
Mommy for everybody.
I
So
love
they took it
that.
upon themselves. Yeah, and even with them initiating that, it was awkward for them at first too, because they'd be like, "Mom, mommy," like take your time. Like I
Yeah.
know who I am. Like you can go back and forth if you feel like it. Whatever's gonna make you feel comfortable, I'm good. Like take your
Yeah.
time. So it was they initiated that and we just rolled with it
And that
and it
speaks
developed over
to
time.
that also speaks to your security as a woman, right? Because, a lot of that can play with our minds as far as where do you lie? Where's your position in that
Mhm.
relationship? Because that obviously has already father daughter relationship, and then it's like you're coming into that. And so,
Mhm.
being secure as a woman, just to be able to say, whatever you feel comfortable calling me, I'm okay with, and I'm going to be
Mhm.
here regardless and be here if you need me, don't need me, whatever it is. And perhaps that
Mhm.
was because of your previous experience with having already been, a mother to a stepmother, to a stepchild, excuse me. And then of course, just you as a person growing in your own
Mhm.
security. So you mentioned the fact that with your new set of stepmothery with the new girls, that they came in and they called you mom, and that was something that they
Mhm.
discussed, and it really is a beautiful thing. But seeing that they called you mom and it's beautiful, did that negate any challenges that would still happen just with being a stepmom and stepchild?
Not at all. Because the truth of the matter is, even in all the transitioning and adjusting and the frills of being able to be called mom and them initiating that, there's still it's a huge learning curve. I'm still having to learn who you are. You have to learn who I am, what that comes with, my background, your background. And so, for example, you kind of you're in the house. This is all happening during COVID. Okay. So
Okay.
now we are spending more time together than we would had folks been leaving the house.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that they were kind of just like moving around in their own little circle.
Hmm.
And we're doing things like we're coming together for dinner, we're coming together for devotion, but there seem to be like two sets of families moving around the house.
Mm.
And so at some point, I just raised a casual conversation over dinner or something like that. Like, I noticed, no judgment, but let's talk. I noticed that you guys sort of just like kind of do your own thing. We come together for some things. And they shared with me, well, and Luke, because he was there, that they had also felt like there were two families moving around each other. And that at this point, Roman is here. And so they're like, you know, there's you, Daddy, and Roman, and then it's us. And
Okay.
so I had to like put on my social worker hat. I was like, oh, let me grab this hat real quick and sit down. I sure did come to the table
Yeah.
with a blank piece of paper
Yeah.
and a Sharpie. And I did. I drew circles. I was like, every blended situation has several circles that coexist.
Yeah.
So I kind of like walk through the history of like, you guys have a relationship that currently exists with your mom.
Yeah.
And in that bubble, there are your sisters. There's you and the sister that's here right now. There's your mom. Then there's the bubble that exists before I even got here. There's you, your dad, your mom,
Yeah.
your sister. There's you can take your mom out of the equation for that piece. Like there's you and your dad. I'm like there's you and your sisters. Then there's you guys and Roman. I said so. I mean, like the goal is for this bubble of five to develop like a really strong circle, but it's actually okay for there to be multiple layers and overlapping circles that all coexist. And it doesn't like lessen the importance of anyone's existence in the family or anyone's role. But I'm like, we have to one keep talking,
Yeah.
keep the communication open, and just like talk about some of the discomfort of what some of this is like, what you're observing, what you're feeling, and even how you're interpreting that, and just like putting it out there. And it does not change overnight. There's always going to be like some overlap. Because I explained to them, like, you guys have stories about your childhood and your family experiences growing up that I have no relation to. I
Right.
have no reference point. I wasn't there. And I'm okay with that. Like, I got to be cool with you all being able to express, like, remember when, when those conversations come up, I can't participate.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like there's no entry point for me to be like, true,
Yeah.
that was fun. So here we are, like building something from scratch, understanding that everybody's got a history that precedes this current blend of family life. And so, it gets touchy here and there, but like I said, the goal is to like keep talking, keep the lines of communication open, and try to just understand folks' perspectives. But that was a really proud moment, but a hard one to just like. There's a lot of moving
Yeah.
pieces, pretty much all of the time,
I love
all the
that
time.
because we talk about communication in every other aspect of relationships, but communication is it. Like to put it from that perspective of, immediately we'll think the mother is coming into this, the new wife is coming into this, and so she may feel isolation, forgetting that the kids may feel that same thing, because they had their own thing, and that was functioning and working however it was working, and now that the new wife is coming into uh, the family with their father,
Hmm.
this is now being interrupted, right? And so,
Yeah, everyone's
how?
trying to figure out where they fit.
Yes, everyone. Where's my position now? Where is my position? And
Hmm.
that in itself is a challenge. And
Hmm.
you're right. We don't speak about all of the different positionings and thoughts and people that everyone involved in that has their own version and perspective of how they feel isolated. We automatically think it's
Hmm.
from one side because maybe we hear that a lot more, but
Hmm.
it's a lot to blend families. It's a lot. It really is
Hmm.
a lot. And I mean, thank God for your your mental health background because you know
Okay,
uh,
because
uh,
the social work be coming
hello,
through.
hello, because that was just awesome how you did that and how you were able to actually take yourself out of that for a second and put that hat on to just see it from their
Hmm.
perspective and understand it from their
Hmm.
perspective. And I think that's just so good. So now you are now a mom to a young prince, um
Hmm.
and now he's your biological child. And
Hmm.
so that in itself has to be a different feeling altogether. And so just to share with us what that felt like, what that
Hmm.
feels like to you.
I will say this because Elaine, I shoot straight.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love and appreciation for my experience as a stepmom, but it always comes with a lot of adjustment and, trying to figure things out. And you have to like learn how to learn another person, get to know them, and build, earn, create, nurture this love.
Yeah.
Having had my own child, even though he cannot articulate these words because he's only a year and 8 months old, there is an innate understanding between him and myself that I am mom. Like, there is no question about who I am in his life. There is no debate. There's no doubt. There's no, I have to earn this boy's affection.
Yeah.
Ain't none of that. It
Yeah.
it is like there is nothing like that in the world. And I did like, I longed for that experience. I was fine with my stepmom experience. I understood the challenges that came with that experience. And you do take some hits as a step parent. But having my own, I was like, oh, now this is what that is like, Jesus. Like, this is what that is like.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, my heart exploded the day he was born. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this hits different. This his it hits, and so yeah, I'm getting to know him because the personality is just starting to like come out, and
Right.
he's developing and all of that. But I also know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at me. I'm looking at parts of Luke. So even though he can't say, "Here's what you need to know, mommy," I there is some built-in familiarity with
Yeah.
this spawn living outside of my
Yeah.
body now.
Yes. It's a wonderful connection. It's unexplainable. Um
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just like you said, it's just something that's you can't really speak to. It just is. Right? It just
Hmm.
is, and it's just such a nice it's a nice feeling. And I really
Absolutely.
I love that you have the opportunity to have experienced both, right?
Hmm.
And let's go back for a little bit because you did mention that you've had miscarriages, having,
Hmm.
wanted this and envisioned this whole look of motherhood for you. If you're okay with speaking on it, when you were going through the first, I guess you could say, planning of trying to have a child, whether you're planning it or not, what was that for you? How did that feel for you? And then when you had the miscarriage, what was the things and the steps that you went through to kind of get through that?
I need the second part of that question again. But to answer the first part, that it was not a plan, actually. And, like I said, shooting full on straight. Um, I got pregnant during a separation. Like, we were separated at the time. And it's so wild because, while we were married, we weren't trying at all. And there wasn't a whole lot happening because things were breaking down, like I said. And so when I got pregnant, it was a surprise to me because I'm like, you practically blew on me. How did that happen? And I miscarried almost immediately.
Mm,
I had a strong reaction to the whole thing. Like, I was terribly sad and so on. And there was talk about trying. I'm like, this is not the time to be trying nothing. Trying would be a distraction from what's really going on here.
mm,
And when I got pregnant again, the second time, it's because we have been separated again. And sometimes when you're trying to work it out, yeah, folks get together.
right.
And I popped up from that get together pregnant. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Okay, all right. And that time, you know, I I was blown, I was scared, but I was committed to seeing it through and doing what I had to do. And I got to about 12 weeks and a day in that pregnancy
Mm,
and then began to miscarry. So like I was already showing and all of that because I
oh,
mean I'm small, so it didn't take much.
mm,
But I already began to miscarry and I miscarried during a season when four of my girlfriends were pregnant at the time.
Oh wow.
And there was no, yeah, it the valley got pretty low and dark for
Hmm.
a while, but there was no let's try again. That was it. That was the end of that. So I went about recovering from that between honestly like therapy and my support system at the time.
Hmm.
So I was not planning for kids the times that I got pregnant in my previous marriage at all. Those things didn't just happen, but they were not planned.
Right.
They
Right.
weren't planned.
And that's interesting, but it's not uncommon. But I just find it to
Mhm.
be, still, and I'm gonna let you tell your story because I get excited just thinking about it. But the
Mhm.
fact that you were going through a tough time in your marriage, you became pregnant not once but twice. They did not go to full term, and then you came out of that marriage, and you went through your valley, and you've come up out of that, and now you are remarried happily. Let me just add that,
Mhm.
happily married,
Mhm.
and now you were thinking, I want to have a kid. Was this child planned? Your first one, of course, we're talking. Was he planned?
Oh yeah.
And then when you were talking about that, were there any fears of you being pregnant because you had already had, miscarried? And so were there any fears, and was this child planned? The first child.
For sure. Roman was a bona fide plan. Okay. He was talked up into existence. So yeah, we because of our ages at the time, we were both like, how long do we want to wait? We had a very clear conversation about what the plan was going to be. And so yeah, we came in hot. Okay. We got married. We began trying to settle down and we began trying. Okay. And there was stress around it. I was like, I don't want to be stressed out about it. And I'm pretty sure, like, we actually had a miscarriage, like, in the very beginning of our marriage. But it happened so quickly, there was no time to even confirm that it was a pregnancy.
Mm,
But because I'd been down this road before, I knew what that was like. I know my body very well at this point. So we miscarried pretty early on. took a breather. Like I went to the doctor, like had things checked out. They said it was fine and it took a few months. There was pressure because you got grandparents like when, hello, what are you doing? I had my mom on the phone talking about Tamron Hall had Moses at 47. I was like, do not get. Could we not? Can I just get a chance? And so she's like, well, I'm just saying, like, it's taking a while. I'm like, look, if it takes a while, I'll go to the doctor. But can I get a minute?
right.
It hasn't been that long.
Right.
It hasn't been that long. Can I get a minute? Can I get a minute? So, yes, he was a plan. And I'm not going to lie, Elaine, I have pregnancy brain. So I forgot the second part of your question.
That's okay.
You
That's
said,
all right.
was he a plan? Was he a plan? Yes. And then what?
And were you afraid to be pregnant, having had miscarried previously?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
So I get pregnant. I'm excited. And then I'm petrified.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm petrified. So much so that I explained to the doctor, look, I've miscarried 3 times. They told me that I needed to have like some progesterone shots the next time I got pregnant if I wanted to make sure that I saw it to fruition. So I need you to shoot me up with whatever it is I need to make sure that this baby makes it. And
Hmm.
she did not do that. What she did do was, though, she allowed me to come in there every 2 weeks to see the baby, to do the ultrasound and to make sure that things were going well. And I would say that should have given me peace. I
Yeah.
got through the first trimester and I still was very nervous about it. It took me maybe 6 or 7 months into the pregnancy to even go into the store and look at baby clothes.
Mm.
And even when I did go look at the baby clothes, I wouldn't touch them. I would like get close and be like, no.
Yeah.
I need to wait. I need to hold this person on the outside. And like God told me exactly what he was going to do. Like that he was seeing this promise to fruition, but I definitely was still struggling to fully embrace the pregnancy and just sit in it and be happy because I was afraid that, like, I've heard stories where people get all the way to the end
Right.
and lose their babies. And I don't know how this is going to go because I haven't had, at this point, I haven't had a successful pregnancy.
Yeah.
So, I was petrified a lot of the time. I did not necessarily show it,
Mm-hmm.
but my friends knew that I was nervous about, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here. I feel things. He's all right.
Yeah.
They say he's okay,
That's
but
it.
we gonna see. I'm gonna wait. I'm
Yeah.
gonna wait. So yeah, I was a wreck, kinda low key, the whole
And
time.
yeah, and so and that's to be expected, you know.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering what you mentioned your support system. You do mention God, which you mentioned your faith, and so how much did that play a part in you being able to just get through the first pregnancy? You know what I mean? Your
Mhm.
faith and your
Mhm.
support system. How important and how integral were they in you just getting through your pregnancy successfully?
Well, folks were in my ear like, just celebrate. It. Like, you go to the doctor and you hear that heartbeat. Celebrate that. Like, be present in that,
Yeah.
and like pray through that anxiety. And it was a balance. Like, it's okay to be happy, be nervous. Like, it was okay. Like, what I had to tell myself throughout the whole process was duality is a real thing. It is okay for competing feelings to coexist. Like,
Yeah.
I can feel both and have that be okay.
Mhm.
So, I talk to God often. I talk to my therapist often. I talk to my support system often. And those folks, I talk to Luke a lot. Like, they propped me up and, like, just kept cheering me on. And that is how I got from point A to point B. Just kind of like staying in God's face about it. And I just took baby steps. I'm like, it is. I'm telling myself it's okay to feel what I'm feeling
Yeah.
after what I've been through. It's kind of normal. Like, I am excited and I am nervous.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And I'm just gonna just be okay. Yeah, like that. Look, I can't
That's
I
right.
can't deny my feelings. So I'm just gonna be okay having them, understanding that the feelings pass, and we're gonna ride it out. And that's what I did.
That's it. I love it. I mean, one last thing because we really could end there. We really could end right there because that was a word, y'all. Okay, it was a word. But what is one thing that you want people to take away from your experience?
Honestly, one day at a time.
Nice.
One day at a time, and just keep going. Because I do find, I think motherhood is terribly overwhelming as much as it is a blessing.
Yeah.
And I think it is crazy that we do this and then leave the house and go to work. I think that don't make no good sense. I'm like, this is not. There should be a salary attached to motherhood. I don't understand why there is not.
You
I'm
preaching?
on call 24/7. Like,
Yes.
there is no off button.
No.
Okay. Like, even when they're sleeping, you still want to make sure that they're alive while they're sleeping. Like, yeah, everybody good? So
Right.
I feel like take deep breaths and take it like one day at a time. These are blessings that even though they are blessings, they come with their challenges.
Yeah.
And I say just like, continue planting those small seeds, and one day we will see them grow and see them produce the fruit that we have been nurturing for all this time. In
Yeah.
Jesus' name.
I love it. Y'all, take it one day at a time. I mean, that is a message that can be used in any area of our lives. And I'm just very inspired and just excited for you, Siobhan, because your
Thank you.
journey has been quite the journey. And to see you on the other side of it is just, it gives us hope. It gives us motivation, inspiration, and letting us know that there is a God that sits on high and looks down low and continues to bless us even through our challenging times. And so, thank you
Hmm.
so much for sharing your story and your experience with us today. I just finished watching the episode and it was so good. And guess what, y'all? I got my treat. I'm gonna go eat my treat. I hope you love the episode. Please go subscribe, like, and share with everyone you know. And I'll see you next time on My Visions Play Experiences. Bye.
Good one.